So kia ora, everyone, and thank you, Philippa, for that lovely introduction. So as she mentioned, yes, I have 4 children. I know firsthand what it's like to return to work and navigate everything that comes with it. The logistics, the emotion, and even identity shifts that often happen, quietly beneath the surface. I want to also acknowledge Philippa and the work that she's doing to support mums in this space. It is such important work, and I'm really proud to be part of this kōrero today. So before we begin, I actually want to acknowledge you all for being here. Life is full, and carving out time to reflect on your career is not easy, especially when your days revolve around kids and work and family and everything in between. So the fact that you've chosen to be here tells me something. You're here for a reason. Some of you, as Philippa mentioned, may be on maternity leave and thinking about returning. Some of you may have been away for quite some time. Some of you might already be back at work, but sensing that sort of something has shifted. Your role may not quite fit the way it used to, or you may have quietly outgrown it. Or maybe some of you are here because you're looking 3 to 5 years and want more of a longer term vision and thinking about growth and stretch and what's next. So wherever you're at, welcome, and I'm really glad that you're here today. So what it's about is alignment, and that's why we called it clarity. It's about clarity. And that means, what does success mean for me now in this season? What kind of work fits my life and my energy and my values? Those values may have shifted to what they may have been before you had children, BC, before children. Or you may be asking, what does this next chapter really look like and feel like for me? So my intention today is that by the end of our time together, you will feel a bit clearer and more confident and equipped with some really simple next steps toward work that genuinely fits who you are today. So let's dive in. We've made some slides. Okay. Philippa's already gone over some of the housekeeping. So just invite you now just to press mute, just to background. We want to minimize any sort of background noise. And as you've carved out this time, I invite you to turn your phone on silent, or even better, power it off, so you can really focus and make the most of this time for you. As Philippa said, there is a PDF that you should have been emailed, or maybe Philippa's put it in the chat, or get a pen and paper. And we are definitely going to be using the chat function today, just to participate as much as you can. So you've already talked about what brought you here today. So I'm really pleased to see some of your comments already. So redefining this season of life. To move the screen's in the way there. So in your 20s, your career decisions were probably driven by opportunity, building experience. Perhaps your decisions were driven by ambition or doing what you thought you should do. Now that you've had children, your drivers have probably shifted. It's probably more guided by alignment and purpose, and particularly ownership of your time. So you've really earned that wisdom to ask the question, what do I truly want in this next chapter? And as a relaunching mother, you do face unique constraints. They're shaped by school hours and family logistics and even that mental load, and a rhythm that doesn't really follow a straight line. And therefore, relying on rigid work structures can feel sometimes impossible. And for many women, returning to work can also bring that painful sense of not doing anything well, not parenting as well as you wanted to, and that constant guilt that goes with that, not feeling present in your job or feeling like you're doing a very good job, not nurturing friendships the way you used to, not being able to help much at kindy or school, or not having the energy to support aging parents, and really feeling like you're rushing just from one thing to the next and feeling quite depleted of emotional and physical energy, exhausted. I certainly know I have felt that acutely. And it's an awful feeling, and it's far more common than you think. And that's why this stage is not about squeezing yourself back into your old career. It's really about designing work that fits your real life, not the other way around. And if you're not sure what's next, you're absolutely not alone. Some women return to work that they left. Others follow a new spark of interest. And honestly, most women are still figuring this out. So the key here is to stay curious, explore broadly, talk to other people and what they're doing and being interested in, maybe there's new lines of work that you're interested in. Find people who are doing that and talk to them. Really research possibilities and ask yourself the bigger question about what truly matters. This next chapter is about moving forward in a way that honors who you've become. And I really love the 3 C's of a successful career. This really, when I read about this many years ago, it really landed for me because every mother's sweet spot looks different here. But these 3 elements can really shape your satisfaction of being back at work. So the first one is control, and this is what most women want, and that's control of your time. This is about flexibility over when and where work gets done and having a schedule that has a bit of give in it. And this looks different for everyone. And you really want to find what your version looks like. And here's some ideas of what that could look like. There's things such as staggered hours where you may start at 7 a.m. and finish at 2:30 p.m. There's flex time. There's shortened or compressed weeks. There's remote or hybrid work. There's job sharing. So there's some options there around what control could look like. Content is about job content. And I do remember going back to work early on. I remember saying to my husband, if I am going to go through the massive logistical gymnastics of going back to work, actually for a mother to leave the house, I want to go back to work that's meaningful, that I'm interested in. So the question here is, and once again, it's different for every woman, but what makes work meaningful for you? So for some people, it's about a challenge. Other people, it's about prestige. Some people, it's about, I love to collaborate. I know others, I hear this a lot, is all about their colleagues and the environment they work in. Some people, it could be for their social impact, or some people might want to be working creatively. So what does the content look like? And finally, compensation. Now, money matters, right? But it's not everything. And what often happens, I see a lot of women trading dollars for the flexibility and joy of work. But I don't want you to also undervalue yourself. Your skills and experience still count, even if you've had a break. So it's important here to research the market. What's the market paying? And know how to negotiate yourself confidently. I mean, I've got a salary negotiation guide in one of my courses I've got on my website. And what I often see is a lot of women trade one C for the other in finding that balance. So a lot of people I see trade compensation to have control and the content. Other people might trade content. They may not want something that's too challenging or much of a stretch, just when they're in this family focused season. The thing I want to emphasize here is that these choices are not permanent. They just evolve with whatever stage of life that you're at.
Yeah. And Liz, I think that's a really good point, because I think sometimes before you go back to work, it's like, oh, I want this and I want that, I want that. And then you're back at work and you're like, actually, I need to reassess one of those C's. And then maybe 6 months on, it's different again. And that's completely okay. It just happens.
It does. It really does. So the most important thing to remember is clarity first, strategy second. Clarity comes before strategy. What happens is many women, they skip straight to strategy, and I get it. They tweak their LinkedIn profile and update their CV, and they start applying for roles. They talk to recruiters, and they're just trying to fix their current situation without first getting clear on what they actually want. And I get it. Strategy feels productive. It feels like movement and it gives us a sense of control. But without clarity, strategy is a lot like driving without a destination. You're moving, but are you really heading in the right direction? So clarity comes first. So ask those deeper questions of what kind of work actually fulfills me now? What environments allow me to thrive? What strengths do I want to use? What are some skills that I really don't want to be using anymore? And what lifestyle do I want work to support in this season? And when you have clarity, your decisions become far more intentional, your conversations become more focused, and your next steps become far easier to take. So that's what we're beginning with today. So we're going to look at three main areas today because we only have 60 minutes and to design work that works for this season. So the first one is taking stock, sort of looking at where you are right now, what's working, what's the type of work that drains you, what energizes you, and what are you ready to change. We're going to look at your values, explore what matters most in this season of life, and looking at what are those non-negotiable values, the things that absolutely have to happen in order for you to be in that job. And finally, an action plan, easy, doable steps. We're not actually doing a 5-year plan here. We're just doing what is just some next steps that you could take today or in the next few months. So you have that clarity. And before we dive into that first exercise, I need to tell you about the framework that I use for every career transition with my clients. And that is to soul search first, then research, and then job search. And what a lot of women do is they jump straight to the job search phase. They start looking at the job boards. They look on Seek, scrolling. A lot of them look for part-time jobs on Seek. And I often say this, is if you want to feel depressed, just look at Seek. That is because very few jobs get advertised. And I tell you what, part-time jobs are definitely not advertised. Yes, they still exist. Yes, they are around, but they will not be advertised. It's very rare to see a part-time job that's advertised. So we want to start with that's where most people start. So we want to start with what does your soul want? That's the real place to begin. Your life has changed. So what does your soul want now from your career? And that's where we want to start. So we're going to do one of my first soul search exercises taken from I've got a signature program called Become Your Own Pathfinder. So we're taking an exercise from that today. One of my favorite, and that is called the Flippin' Wish List. So basically, this is a question about what do you and don't you want from your next phase of career. So these are the types of tasks, people, and environments. So if you've got a pen and paper in front of you, I invite you to kind of, especially if it's an A4 sheet, you want to divide the sheet into 4 columns. And these are the titles of the columns. The first one is job. The second column is what fuels my energy, or what did I love? The third column is what drains my energy, or what did I hate? And the fourth column is you're going to flip anything on the drain my energy or things that you hated. You want to flip to the polar opposite. So in the first column, job, you want to write down every job you've ever had. And don't just stop at job paid employment. These could include things like volunteer work, some of the school or community projects that you've taken. Jot those down in that first column. Then in the second column, you want to write, well, the tasks, people, and environments, what did I love about that particular job or volunteer role? What really fueled my energy? What did I love? And get really specific about that. That third column, what did you hate about them? What drained your energy? The tasks, the people, and the environments about that particular role. And then on the fourth column, we're going to flip it. So say you hated, I had a micromanaging boss. What would be the opposite of that? Well, I need autonomy. Say you had real attention to detail. I mean, that was me working in clinical research. It had to be, I'd have so much attention to detail. Oh my God, talk about drain my energy. So what's the opposite of attention to detail? Well, I really love big picture thinking. I love brainstorming. I love interacting with other people and sparking ideas and that big picture. That's me to a T. So that would be an opposite. So what we're doing is the fuel that what fuels your energy and the opposite list, they are what we call ideal career ingredients. So I'm going to give you say, I don't know, 5 minutes. I'm just looking at the time now. I'll give you 5 minutes just to jot these down. You may need a bit more time to do this, and maybe later on today or this week you might finish this task. But even just in 5 minutes, let's see what we can come up with. And feel free just to put in the chat if you're not sure, if you've got questions, just feel to unmute or put in the chat, and we'll just keep an eye on that too. And I just want to invite, when you're writing these, get really specific about it. But I'll read out some examples of things. Often people find starting with the hate list easier. So here's some things that I hear people really hate about their roles. Things like rigid hours, lack of trust, constant interruptions, pointless meetings, office politics, long commutes, feeling unseen or underutilized, repetitive tasks. So, there's so many things that you can probably find from your previous roles, and you want to find those opposites. What if you could flip them? I'll just give you another minute to finish that off.
But I just share my
I'm just looking at them now.
I'm doing this too, Liz.
Yeah, they're great. So yes, Philippa, your challenge now is to go, okay, what are the opposite of those? How's this going to look? There's some what we call big fat career clues about your next steps. So thank you for doing that. That's 5 minutes. You probably will want a bit longer to do that. So what happens now? We want to, as I said, your flip list and your energy list, or the things you loved, are what we call your ideal career ingredients. These are the foundation for the next chapter of what you're looking more for. Now, why do I love this exercise? Is because one of the ways to tap into our inner wisdom about what we truly need, there's lots of ways to do it, but one of the best ways I can think of is through reflection. Reflect. You've had a career history. You've had probably a couple of decades now to reflect on that. So look, we are mining your career history for the gold nuggets, because they give you massive career clues about what you want to take into that next step. And the other thing is, we want to then go theme hunting. So there's a trusty thing called the highlighter here. And we want to take the highlighter and see what patterns or themes are emerging. There might be things that you're saying over and over again. Pay attention to that. What are those lists telling you about yourself and what you need? And the other thing is, it's all very well to sit and do an exercise like this for 20 minutes. We want to sit with them for a bit. Sit with them I invite you to sit with these for the next 2 or 3 weeks. And as you're going about your day, notice, oh, I really hate it when this happens, or God, I feel so fulfilled or energized when this happens. Add it to the list. And what happens is these lists kind of start to take shape. They kind of morph. And they tell us so much. It's a very simple exercise, but it's quite profound. So yeah, we're wanting to build a career that feels like home, and looking over your career history is a brilliant way to begin. So has anyone written anything in the chat about that? I really invite you to write in the chat or feel free to unmute and just share. What are some things that you notice doing this exercise? Yeah, the flip. So that's where we want to get. I'm just looking at the thing here. As an example, a flip on my drainers above would be for me. Yeah, work more often in a buzzy co-working space. Brilliant. Yeah, because you're finding you're a bit isolated, Philippa. Is that right?
Yeah, I just thrive off energy, right? And so it's great. I mean, I've always, throughout my corporate career, it's like, if only I could work from home more, right? But then the downside of working from home a lot is that I miss the buzz, the energy that you just feel when you're in an environment, it's all hustle. So therefore, it's like, great, I've really got to get myself working in a co-working space. It's more buzzy, more often, and feed off the energy. So that'd be one example. And then the other one I said, I just get so frustrated because I'm working part-time hours and it's great working part-time hours, but I'm right in the middle of doing everything at about 2:30 when I go have to pick up my child. And then I spend my whole evening going, oh, but I should have done that and I should have done this, and I should have done that. So it's about, okay, right, I need to get a care of my child like from 2:30 to 4:30 to crank out another 2 hours a day. So that's kind of like how I actually need to look at my day.
Love it. Yeah, at 2:30 is in the middle of your afternoon.
It totally is.
It's a really tough time. Exactly. And if I could give any bit of advice too, is I know some women would just love a part-time hour job, where they could work from 9:30 till 2:30, 5 days a week. Now, that's all good and well, but what it means is the person that struggles the most with that is the mother, because they are constantly on the go, constantly running. And sometimes it may be easier to go, you know what, I'm going to work 3 full days a week. So I get at least, or 4 full days a week, and I get 1 day off that I can catch up and do errands and do life admin and have a bit of time for me. Sometimes I think over the years, I've noticed that working a lot better for many women.
And it's such a good conversation to have, right? Because there's pros and cons. So working sometimes 4 days a week, sometimes work might drift into the 5th day. So it all really depends on your situation and what works for you, and I guess the workplace you're going into too.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Amanda. Autonomy, clear expectations met on both sides. Yep. Creativity, open communication. I much prefer a hybrid working situation. Those are all fantastic things to be very mindful of in the conversations you're having in an interview. Amanda, you know, open communication and clear expectations. Some of these things, it's like, how would you know that before you accepted a role? What if someone was a clear communicator, or what the environment is like? And that's where doing your due diligence about a role is very, very important. It's a really standard thing now that I'm noticing more and more of, is when you go and that candidates who are being interviewed, asking the interviewer, can I talk to a couple of people in your organization, please, about what it's like to work here? It's becoming standard practice. Now, if a company is put out by that, I would be asking myself, do I really want to work for this company? What are they hiding? Because it is not worth it being in a toxic work environment. And I think, doing that due diligence is extremely important. Okay. So look, as I said, that previous exercise, add to it, spend a bit more time on it. But even just from doing that short exercise now, hopefully you may see some things popping up, some themes, some of those ideal career ingredients. We're now going to move on to your values. So, core values, these are the things that matter most to you. And in the over 2 decades of working with clients, clarifying your values truly is one of the most important parts of finding clarity. And when you become a mother and you attempt to work, it's very normal to feel incredibly pulled in different directions, family and finances, and even finding fulfillment. But your values, when you know your values and you've clarified those values, they help you navigate those choices without guilt and confusion. In fact, I actually call values your decision makers. When you need to make a decision, if you know your values, you'll find making that decision so much easier. I kind of think of your values as your inner GPS, because when you're aligned with them, life honestly feels so much smoother and more energized. When you're out of alignment with values, you'll feel drained and resentful and constantly torn. So your values may have shifted since you've had children. You may have had ambition or achievement beforehand. Perhaps now it's more about balance, or maybe it's about contribution. So we are going to clarify them. So in the workbook that Philippa's put in the chat, or you should have been emailed, there is a list of values. So I'm going to show you what they look like on the screen. They look like this. I'm going to give you, not very long, unfortunately. We do have a little bit of time for the workshop, but I'm going to give you 4 minutes to kind of go through them, take a highlighter, or write them down, as many values as you can think of, right? I've said here, circle any words that resonate even slightly. So that's step number 1. And there's it says here, how you want to live your life.
And just adding to what you were saying before, Liz, sometimes your values you think will stay the same when you go back to work. Right.
Yeah.
I haven't changed. I still want to work 70 hours a week. And then you go back and go, actually, yeah, is my value really the same? And so sometimes, yeah, they change.
Or they change, all right. Or maybe they haven't yet. And then you go, oh, I might have to have another review of them. Give you 1 more minute. Hey, I know that wasn't long, but you've got the workbook that you can always go back to later. So step 2 is we want to narrow them down. See if you can get down to your top 5 to 7 core values. What are the most important? This part is actually quite hard to do.
Just a question, Liz.
Yeah.
So obviously we're thinking about this from a work, it's hard to move away from thinking about this in relation to work. So this is also thinking about it overall in your life. So balance might be more from a work perspective, but more so thinking about it for values for your life.
It's a really good question, Sarah, because sometimes for me, when I do this, I think, well, time with my family for me is a given. It is a high value, and it's something I already absolutely have nailed. I've done that. I do that very well. So because I only have 5 to 7 values, are there any more that I might have? Or sometimes it isn't for people. Like it really, it is about your life, not just about work.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah. I've got my 5.
You do?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. I just meant
Excellent.
about this in relation to our life, or thinking about this values in the workplace.
Yeah.
Or around your life. Yeah.
Yeah, it is around life. I've heard Brené Brown. I don't know if you've heard of Brené Brown. She often says it has to be around life. I do a values clarification around just career in my Pathfinder program, but this particular one is around your life. It really is.
Thank you.
So, what do they mean to you? So if you could just write a short note, what do each of these values mean for you? What does it really mean? An example, I need flexibility. I be able to work school hours, or I want to be able to work from home 1 day a week. Perhaps growth is I need to feel challenged and I need to be learning new things, even if I'm working part-time. Connection, working in a team that values kindness and open communication. And what I've said here, for each one of these, how well, if you're currently in a role, or if you could use your most previous role, most recent role, rate each value out of 5. For these, they're non-negotiable values. If 1 is low and 5 is high, how well are those values met? Or how well were they met in your most recent role if you're not currently working? Okay, just going to move on to the next one. All right. So really, the question here is, for my work to truly support my life, what has to be true? So it's really just taking those statements that you've just written and going, what has to be true? Because they are the decision filters for every opportunity, every conversation that you have, and job description going forward. When your values are not met, one of two things will happen. Either you'll just be miserable in your role or you'll leave. That's all there is to it. Okay, and just to extend this out a bit more. So, the return to work reality check, there's just prompts here. And this is just extending this values clarification exercise. Like, what does sustainable work look like for you in this season? And the prompts below are things like, I must have flexibility or recovery time, or I need emotional support. That may be one for you. It could be a certain income that you need. What does that actually look like? Do you know what that income is? Once again, be specific. Often it's quite a good idea to do a budget when it comes to the income level. Do you need intellectual stimulation? Is it adult conversation? Autonomy, predictability. How will you protect your energy? But these are just some extra things that just add to what does the sustainable work look like for me in this season. I love that last one. It says permission to change, to not cope perfectly, to want more.
That's such a big one, Liz. I think we're so fed the societal expectation of being perfect in every other way, but that's just really challenging to do, right? So being okay with good enough is just so important, isn't it?
Not being that perfect parent. I mean, my goodness, the pressure to be the perfect parent. What is a perfect parent anyway? What does that even look like?
Yeah, I used to think that I used to have to come home from, like a 8-hour work day, and it was my duty and my role to cook dinner for my family. And I mean, and that was tough. I mean, I was working 70 hours a week, and then I was like, I gotta get home and cook dinner. And then I look back and it's like, actually, someone else could have done that for me.
Yeah.
Right. And that could have been quality time with my kid. At the time, I was like, no, that's what good parents do. They cook dinner for their family. And, it all comes down to choices. And exercise to just take a step back and go, what's really important.
That's right. And I think, just on the cooking dinner thing, I mean, for women especially, we've been role modeled very powerfully what that's meant to look like. And it goes back eons that women often cook the dinner. So it's just an assumption that we adopt. And this is an opportunity to stop and kind of go, well, hang on. Do I want to do that?
Yeah. My 1-year-old would not have cared who cooked him dinner, right? But at the same time, it was my thinking, it was my sense of duty or my sense of love. But actually, probably playing would have given a lot more to the relationship, sitting down on the mat and playing with some toys. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Okay, moving on. And then it says, name the real challenge. What is actually the hardest part for me about returning to or reshaping work? So write it down. What is the hardest part for you? And I've just written some examples there.
I think definitely some of these things won't become apparent actually until you're in, like when you're back at work and going, far out, it's hard leaving my kids screaming at me at the daycare door.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to get away. And then it's like, how do you cope with that when you're back at work going far out? Am I really the best mother for doing it? And so like what sort of support and how do you deal with that? Is it about finding a friend at work that's in the same space and grabbing a coffee for 5 minutes and just letting that emotion disappear over a coffee? It is interesting. The different pulls, the emotional load as much as the mental load too.
Yeah. Or leaving bang on when you have to leave to pick up your child and knowing that particular project you need at least another 2 hours to work on it, or feeling bad for leaving, or whatever it is. Like, what is the hardest part that you're finding or are worried about happening? And so I've just, the invitation there is to write a sentence. If I'm honest, my greatest challenge is, because once you it's like, we can't actually clean our house until we see the dirt. Be really honest about this, because once you see what the issues are, then we can do something about it. You can do something about it. There are strategies to do something about it. And here's just a little, you'll see in the worksheet, I added it. Is it the role, the structure, or the season? The invitation here is just to go down and tick what statements, and you can tick as many as you like, what statements are actually true for me. And if you find you have lots of ticks in one particular column, so for example, if you have lots of ticks in the career field column, there may be actually some more career exploration is needed. Maybe you don't really believe in the mission, or that kind of work drains you now. It's maybe more career exploration is needed, not necessarily, needed. Or it could be maybe you've got things in the role design. This kind of points to maybe you need a different employer, or renegotiating your hours or expectations around the role, or redesigning the role.
Or asking for more help at home, right? Or getting more help in at home, whatever that looks like. Or village together, right? To help out more with childcare or kid swaps, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. Or the season of life. That could be looking at staggered returns. It might be looking at what does your support system actually look like? What support do you need? Pacing yourself around this. So it's just, if depending on what column you've got most of the ticks in, might point to your next steps on this. And finally, what would great look like? If you design this next chapter about what you truly need, rather than just what you should tolerate, what would change? And let's really call this beautiful role in energetically. If we're talking about manifestation and the law of attraction, being really clear about what you're putting out there is what you'll get back. So this is all in that worksheet that we sent you today. So it might look like I leave work at 4 p.m. twice a week, or I don't check my emails after 7 p.m. ever. It could feel, I feel mentally stimulated, but I'm not depleted. Write down what it would look like. I earn enough to feel proud and secure. My partner and I are equitable in the child and work arrangement. Like if our kid is sick, he sometimes has sick days and I sometimes take sick leave. It's not just all on me. So just a little bit on here. I have a beautiful, it's called my Career Clarity Compass, and it really helps you take this work much deeper and really exploring what you want and what needs to shift. And for those who'd like ongoing support, we do run a 3-month return to work group where we dive into this in a much more supported and structured way. I don't know if you wanted to talk to that, Philippa.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also from my own personal experience when I was returning to work, when I was I kind of went back to work going, everything's normal. It's great. High performance. Philippa will still be back there doing whatever she wants. And I kind of felt constrained and a little bit isolated and really sharing my own experience with others. To that end, I think what I have found is that there are quite a lot of women in the Wellspirit community that are looking for more support, like dedicated support for those that are actually returning to work. So what we're looking to offer, if anyone is interested, is effectively a group of professional women like yourselves coming together that are getting or experiencing group coaching with Liz on a monthly basis, are also able to access fortnightly coffee catch-ups, either online or in person with other women in the support group, but are also able to access a 24/7 chat group as well. So there's just other women on call to ask for advice, get support, career advice that might be parenting advice, what to wear to work, for example, all those stuff that sometimes you have questions, but you don't really know necessarily who to ask. And also to provide expert sessions. So again, we're looking to understand what the group needs, but if that's expert support on sleep or on parenting or on career, then we would provide that. And also like a really extensive return to work checklist to make sure that you're really adequately supported throughout that phase. So I know that there's a number of women that have already expressed interest, but I just wanted to share this with you today as well. So if you're interested, feel feel like you can just type interested in the chat. That's part of the session today. Or if you've got lots of questions, then just feel free to email me at philippa@wellspirit.com. So we're looking to this to basically create the support group based on the needs of any of you that are looking for extra support. So yeah, thanks, Liz.
So just finally, as an action plan, I know I haven't given enough time for this, but essentially we want to take all the things that you have looked at today and look at some milestones and what would be what we call tiny little turtle steps, tiny little actions to make up that particular small action. So here's some examples of what I mean by that. So if you are negotiating a staggered return or a flexible return, your milestone goal would be, I want to secure a 3-month staggered return. So that might be 3 days a week or 4 days a week. And a staggered return could be, yeah, I'm going to start back 2 days a week or 3 days a week for 6 months or whatever that looks like. Or perhaps it's staggered hours. I start at 7 a.m. and finish at 2:30 p.m. So what would the turtle steps, the tiny little steps to make up that particular milestone goal? So these could be write down, well, my top 3 non-negotiables. I want to be able to pick school pickup twice a week. Number 2 could be clarify what I can offer, my strengths, being able to articulate your value proposition is what this part's about. Number 3, draft a simple proposal to my work. What that might look like. Number 4, book a meeting with my manager and have a script ready to go and how you might talk about it. And number 5 is, really practice that script. And so why it works, it moves you from hoping they'll be flexible to kind of leading the design conversation. So that could be one particular milestone. Another milestone could be testing whether I still belong in this field. Do I still want to be in this particular industry or sector? And so that could be, talking to some people who are doing that. So what are those turtle steps? The little tiny steps could be things like what I no longer enjoy about my current field or what I wish I was doing more of. Another step could be looking at LinkedIn and looking at people who are doing roles that maybe you might feel more energized about, seeing if maybe you could do what I call an informational interview with them and preparing for that interview. What would be some questions you might ask them? And really, having the conversation, scoring it out of that. And what that does, it will dispel any assumptions that you make. And it really gives you good, solid data. Another example could be, don't make any big career decisions while you're still adjusting. Maybe you're feeling really overwhelmed about going back. So what would be some turtle steps is to look at what is some pressure. It's a pressure. Maybe you could get a cleaner. Years ago, I got a cleaner. She only comes once a fortnight. So I do an in-between clean. But my goodness, I don't do as good a clean as she does. But it means financially, it's not as a bigger hit on us. It was very doable for us. And my goodness, it is my favorite day of the fortnight. It remains my favorite day of the fortnight. Like these are some things, like think about meal planning. It could be talking to your partner about certain things. It could be having some time for you to really think about what it is you want, like having that 45-minute slot in your calendar. I went to an event last night and I liked point number 4, ask one trusted person. And I've put in brackets my hype person. I listened to Tony Street talk about this. She said, you must have a hype person, someone you can ring, a good mate or a family member and go, I'm having a wobble, a confidence crisis, a wobble. Can you just tell me again what I'm good at, please? Or what have been my achievements again? Because sometimes we forget them. And having that person reflect back, man, that can help. It helps with Tony Street and look at the stuff she does. So, you might decide no permanent career decisions for 30 days. It's only information gathering, and it can really help calm the nervous system. And I've got many other examples of what are some milestones, what are 3 things you'd like to do after today's session and then deciding what are the tiny little turtle steps to be able to achieve that milestone. So really invite you to go ahead and plan that out and write it down. So, and I've got lots of examples here, so we're just going to move on.
There's a full page, your guidebook to help you work through that.
Yes. Yes. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now. Would really love to answer some questions for both Philippa and I.
Absolutely. Is anyone feeling overwhelmed at the moment, or is everyone just sort of excited about what next stage or next step is going to bring?
No questions, but thank you. That was so amazing. And just to be able to take that and reflect on it over the next wee while. And I really related to when you spoke about Seek being like one way to make you feel depressed, because yeah, often that's the easiest thing to default to just sit there looking at Seek, and it's harder to go out and have coffee catch-ups and reach out to companies that you want to work for.
It really is.
Even just an example, an ex-colleague of mine who's now started a consumer goods business reached out to me asking, do you know any women that are great at marketing and branding who would like to do some part-time work? Right? Give me a recommendation. And so that's how it works.
Yes.
So it's about tapping into the networks. And yeah, as soon as I get the job description, I'll share it to the community as well.
Yeah,
A great way to work
exactly.
alongside of. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It is about networking. It really is. And even just reaching out to some old friends of yours that you look on the contacts of your phone and go, who have I not had a cup of coffee with in a while? How are you? What's happening in your life? Having a conversation. And you can be a bit more strategic about who you reach out to. And maybe it's old colleagues, especially if you had a connection with them. And even though you may not have worked with them in 5 years, doesn't matter. They'd probably love to still catch up with you and hear about everything that you've been up to. So I know there's a lot of a confidence crisis that women go, well, I've got nothing to offer and I've just been at home for 5 years and it's like, it's not about that. It's about I call it the frozen in time mentality. People still remember what you used to be like at work. They don't suddenly go, oh, she's been out for 5 years. She's all dusty and, has forgotten everything. They don't think that. They still remember how you were and genuinely would love to say hi. You just never know where those conversations go.
Yeah. And also LinkedIn's amazing. Don't ever
Amazing.
hesitate. If there's somebody that is in a role that you aspire to, reach out to them and just ask some questions, because actually the response rate in LinkedIn is actually really high. And you never know who's just going to be like, hey, why not have a little quick chat on LinkedIn or even a coffee?
Yeah. And flattery
Be
gets
brave on that.
do some good LinkedIn, stalk them, find out what they've done, have some good questions. You just and ask AI to help you and what's a script, make sure it sounds like you, obviously. Hey, I noticed that you did this and then you did that. I find that fascinating. I would really love 15 minutes of your time to ask some questions about your career. I find what you've done really interesting. It's flattering for people.
And Amanda, I see you've got your hand raised.
I just wanted to ask really quickly about LinkedIn. So I've kind of avoided LinkedIn mainly because I was employed a number of times by the same company. So I didn't really need to get involved in LinkedIn at that stage. And then now I'm kind of at the stage where I need to reactivate my LinkedIn, but I really don't have many connections. And my work history is quite patchy. So I almost feel a little bit embarrassed to be on LinkedIn at the moment because I feel like it looks a bit, I don't know if that's a correct way of, that's probably not a correct way.
Very honest and very real. I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
And look, there's ways and ways that you can talk about your skill sets. And, like I help people write CVs. It's the same thing of I've got a gap here and I've got a gap here, and people worry about their career gaps and breaks and things. Own it. If you've had a career break, right, career break. Yeah. It's fine. People have career breaks. It's absolutely fine. But also you can play around with dates a little bit. Like I don't recommend putting the month and then the year. You can just put yeah, 2013 to 2016. And you don't have to write part-time, or you can just kind of play with the information a little bit. It's not lying. Your CV and your LinkedIn is like your own professional website. So it's marketing. That's what it is. Like, CV is not a legal document, it's a marketing document. So you need to frame it like that. It has to have a certain angle. It has to highlight your most wonderful things. Have a play with it. Get someone to give you some feedback on it too. Yeah, don't worry too much about it. And with LinkedIn, it's fine to reach out and ask someone you don't necessarily know to connect with you. That happens all the time.
I think I just need to be, I think it's just, you know, I'm of an age where a lot of my friends are in very high flying jobs now. And my oldest daughter is on the spectrum, so I had to stay at home with her for quite a long time. So I'm kind of at the stage where I feel a bit embarrassed, like they're in these amazing jobs and I'm like, trying to get started again. So
that's right, they're in amazing jobs, but remember, it's marketing here. We all know what social media is about. We put our best selves up there. So I know it can feel really intimidating getting on LinkedIn. It really can. I know that. But just remember, it is a social media platform. It is. We only put our best selves on there. You can do the same. And just get started. I would just connect up as many people as you can. And remember, I think LinkedIn is a wonderful database. I call it a database. It is a database of the most useful information for you, because you can really find out if you like going, I'm really interested in becoming I don't know, medicinal chemist. I use this example all the time. Go and look up, put in medicinal chemist, and up comes 50 profiles, and you look through every profile of people who are medicinal chemists, you can see their exact career paths and go, oh, that's what I've got to do to become a medicinal chemist. It just gives you such valuable information.
Yeah, so, and I think it's all about spending time on it. The more time you spend on it, exploring others' profiles, like how did that person talk about their career break, you know, stealing with pride, things that you love. Feel free to use AI to create a new, you know, upload an image and ask it to create a LinkedIn profile shot on Nano Banana, right? It takes about 1 minute and all of a sudden you might look professional. And then you might see yourself on your LinkedIn profile going, oh, you do look professional, you know. Just explore it, get used to it, read the comments. Like a really good starting point is just to look at other people's posts and just start to love your thinking, you know, and just get used to it. And then it'll just slowly increase your confidence. And then you'll one day be like, why don't I post on something? Right? But just don't feel like you need to post immediately. Sometimes it can feel a bit intimidating. Oh, what do I post about? Where do I start? But just start by, you know, looking at what other people are doing, looking at other people's profiles, updating yours a little bit here, a little bit there. Try it out. Does it feel right? If it doesn't, you know, it's a live profile. Every day you might want to change it and create it and evolve it.
So true.
Okay, thank you.
And just on that, you know, the more connections you have, the more access you have to your connections when you're doing research. And so you want to connect up with someone who has a lot of connections. Like you might want to be connected up with Philippa and I, because then you can access and leverage our connections when you're doing your research on people. So that's what people go, oh, LinkedIn didn't show me anything. It's like, well, how many connections you have? You probably don't have a lot. So when you are reaching out to people, do write a personalized note. I would love to connect with you, but write something personal about it as well. So yeah, it is. It's just spending time on LinkedIn, but it is a completely underutilized, incredible resource. It really is. People completely underestimate it.
Thank you.
Well, this brings us to the end of our mini workshop. And I think, Liz, you've given us so much food for thought, some really wonderful exercises to think a little bit more deeply. And I think it's one of those things, carving time out of your day to do the deep reflection work is sometimes an exercise and time that we often overlook, right? Because we're so busy doing everything else, but this is where we really get that clarity from. So I definitely recommend you all take some more time out of your day, maybe tomorrow maybe the day after, to reflect on some of the things that you've written today. Go back and ask yourself, does this still feel right? And definitely spend that time of writing out your action steps and your total steps, because that will really give you the right direction on which to move forward with. So thanks everybody for turning up, and thank you, Liz, for facilitating the workshop today.
Absolute pleasure. It's been a real joy to be with you all. So go well and all the very, very best.